Well, everyone, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome John Kim to the Storybox podcast today, or otherwise known as the Angry Therapist on social media. John's path has led him to become a pioneer in the field of self-help, humanizing the therapist by showing himself, practicing transparency, and cutting through the bullshit with anecdotes illustrating principles in action in relating and sometimes irrelevant fashion, and a standalone practice, sand exercises. Kim gives readers the tools and directions to focus on what's right with them instead of what's wrong. He's got two best-selling books out called The No BS Guide to Finding and Living Your Own Truth, and I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck. Oh, that is such a good title. John Kim, is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Storybox podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Jay. And can we go deeper on irrelevant fashion? What does that mean?
I'm reading it from your bio, so I'm curious to know what does that mean from your perspective?
I think well, I'm not a fashionable guy. I'm very jeans and t-shirt, but I guess it means as a therapist, tucking your shirt in, wearing a shirt and tie. I just felt like ties for me are it's like a noose around my neck. And so I have holes in my jeans and I wear t-shirts and I wear sweats. I wear things that are very comfortable, and that's how I show up in the world. So maybe that's what they're talking about. I'm definitely not a fashion person, which is funny. I'm glad it's in my bio because it's true.
Very unconventional, man. You don't need to look the part to be the part. I think a lot of the times everyone sort of sees therapists to be a certain way, but you don't have to look a certain way to be that. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you the most is the fact that you're so transparent. You are who you are, and you're able to help people by just being you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Doesn't matter, man.
And I think it's not just me. I think times are changing where people are now. We have more courage to show ourselves. And even though on the internet there's filters and all of this stuff, there's a lot of false advertising. There's also this wave of people just showing up, being their true selves.
So it's one of the things that I've wanted to do for such a long time is have deep, real, meaningful conversations with people that are authentic and do have that ability to shape the world that way. You are right; times are changing, and it's exciting to see. But people like yourself that are putting amazing content out there for people to really connect with is something that's very needful today. So, John, I have one question that I love asking people to sort of start things off, and that is, what does success look like to you?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Before, success used to look like lots of money, house in the hills, Range Rover Porsche combo, horseshoe-shaped driveway, the beautiful wife. And that's what I was chasing when I was a miserable fuck. Today's success looks like not allowing your thoughts to drown you. Today's success looks like my morning coffee, checking on my chickens, watering my rose bushes, a slow dance with my daughter who's 7 months old. Success looks like any time when you're not feeling panic or worry or dread, to me is success. Because I used to live there, the lower frequencies.
Why is that, do you think? Why do you think that you weren't happy when you were chasing the fancy cars and the loud?
Because I was living outside in instead of inside out. So instead of having a relationship with myself, building that, I was concerned with other people's approval, validation. I wanted to be successful on paper, right? So all of that stuff, and then just, advertising, media, how all of that seeps in. I also grew up in Los Angeles around kind of the entertainment industry. So, lots of chasing, lots of people wearing veneers and not really being who they are. Lots of, people being shiny and yet, and also kind of hollow.
So when was the moment that you realized, hang on a minute, that this isn't really success for me? What was that like for you?
For me, I was about 35, went through divorce, and then just started all over. So I changed careers. I was a screenwriter, went back to school at 35, getting a master's, studied psychology, and then became a therapist. And it didn't happen overnight. That was just the beginning, right? That was just the first domino. I think things really shifted for me, man, maybe as I turned 40, like 5 years later, after I, went through my whole rebirth, found fitness, bought a motorcycle, got some tattoos, went on my Eat, Pray, Love journey. And then on the other side of that, I started to come out a lot more calm, a lot less reactive, more present, and then with new definitions on things like success, love, all of that.
We'll dive into that more in a moment. What I'm curious about is this divorce that you went through. So can you share with me, so what are sort of the things that ended up happening within that?
I feel like I got married relatively early. I know people get married really early, but in LA, you get married later. But I was like 29, was with her for like 5 years. We were friends first. And I didn't have a sense of self. And so the marriage was lopsided. And I was also, my dad he's no longer with us, but he was an alcoholic. So I have an addictive gene. So I was just very reactive and negative and aggressive and didn't have a lot of self-awareness, And so I think all of that contributed to the expiration of the marriage. But I think that if it wasn't for my divorce, because that was really the first thing that propelled me, right? That repositioned me. I feel like it was one of the greatest things that's happened in my life. Of course, now looking back, at the time, I thought it was the worst thing. But if it wasn't for that divorce, none of this would have happened. So I'm super grateful for it. And I think we all have that kind of like call to adventure moment, And then for me, it was divorce.
Why was it specifically the divorce that sort of made you open up your eyes a bit more to what you were doing? Was it the fact that you lost something?
Yeah, I feel like I was cut at the knees because when I was married, I didn't focus on friendships. I didn't focus on self-care. I didn't focus on actually living and building a life. I focused on chasing. So I was obsessed with trying to sell the $1 million screenplay, right? As a screenwriter, I was just locking myself in coffee shops for 10, 12 hours a day and grind, hoping that would be my ticket out. And so that was my life. I didn't spend, time investing in friendships, investing in myself. And so it just grayed me out. For years I did that. I just was grinding and grinding. And she was doing really well. She was actually in the entertainment business as well, and she was becoming successfI was not, right? I was a husband with the dishwashing gloves and picking up the dog poop while she was, gone, that kind of guy. And I didn't have any kind of sense of self.
I can understand and I can relate to that side of things where you sort of see your friends and people that that are getting success.
Yeah, all around me was happening. People were yeah.
And you yourself, you feel like you're going nowhere, and it's almost like, what's going on with me?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
now.
You feel like the kid that got held behind.
Yeah, I was also an angry individual. Like last year, I went through a difficult breakup, and I was lost for close to 9 months, man. Like I didn't know. I was angry at the world. I was angry at myself. I was angry at everybody. And
how did you bounce back? Or are you still in the process?
No, I bounced back. Like I sort of realized, at this moment of just realization of waking up, like why am I like this? Why? And I realized, hang on a minute, it's my choice. And that's where I came up with what I call the CAP method, which is C stands for choice, A stands for acceptance, and P stands for persistence. And it's basically putting on a cap and tightening it up on all the negative aspects of your life. So all the anger that I was feeling, everything, I put it in this bottle, cap it, make sure that it doesn't open up again. And I realized that it was my choice to feel this way. I accepted my reality for the way it was, and I was being consistent in all the wrong areas. So if I reverse that, now I can understand that it's my choice to become better. I can now accept the fact that I'm in control of it. And now I can be persistent to move forward in all the good areas of my life, which is what I've been doing. And now
Yeah,
I
it feels like
realize
you went from depowering to empowering. It feels like you kind of took the power back.
exactly. And
Yeah,
now I'm in an amazing relationship with a beautiful woman who, loves and respects me and absolutely adores me, and I adore her. So, I mean, I don't put all my focus and all my energy and all my attention into just one specific relationship. I care for her, I adore her, I, I wish the absolute best for her, but I'm at that place in my life at the moment where I'm old enough to realize, okay, if everything was to end for me tomorrow,
yeah.
that would be okay, because
Ooh.
that's just part of life.
You know what, man? Not to piggyback on your story, but that's where I'm at. And if I'm much older than you, I'm 47, but it took a long time to get there. But yeah, and I think when you get to that place, then you have nothing but gratitude, and anything good that happens is extra. It's not tied or dependent to your happiness. When I was in my 30s, I had to win the lottery. I had to sell the screenplay. I had to get the girl, whatever it was. And I would tightly tie that to my worth and happiness. And if it didn't happen, then I was devastated and miserable. Today, I don't tie a lot of things to my happy, not that I'm not stressed out. And, of course, I've got my hard days and all that. But if everything was to end today, it's all good.
Mhm.
Like I have a story now, I've gone somewhere. I've affected some people. I've built something. I've written some books, and it's okay. Like to me, I'm content with that. I am okay if I was to go tomorrow.
Mm. Same here, man. Like, I think you hit the nail right on the head with gratitude. I think
Yeah.
gratitude is oftentimes taken so much for granted these days because we are really busy. We have so much going on in our lives that we sort of forget to just stop and be present in the current moment and just be grateful for what we actually have, what we've been through, where we
Hmm.
are right now. And I think I forgot about that for such a long time. I think I was so focused on me and
Yeah.
being selfish to me for all that time. And I didn't even know who I was. So
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
selfish for nothing. And
Yeah.
I sort of had to realize, when everything left me, I was like, now what? There's got to be something
Mhm.
more. So I always encourage people, like ask the tough questions, ask why. Because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
Really.
love it.
And like, I want to ask you about growing up in what sort of environment did you grow up in? What sort of lessons did you learn from your parents? Are you able to share some of that?
Yeah. Parents came here with very little money, and we actually landed in Columbus, Georgia, because my dad was in the military. He had a connection there. And this was in the 70s, and it was very racist. And so I think because of that, we left very fast, and we drove to California in this VW. And my mom just started flipping burgers, and she worked at a little hamburger shack. Saved money, eventually bought it. It was the size of a minivan. And I remember I used to go there with my little skateboard and eat burgers and skate around all day. So my parents would work a lot. My dad got into the telephone business, just doing manual labor, pulling telephone cables. And that left me at home with my brother alone. And I tell people I was raised by pulp culture. So in the 80s, I grew up just by going outside and just doing things that were cool. So breakdancing, I love that. Skateboarding, chasing girls. Like I was gone from the time the sun came up till it came down. I was always out playing and curious and filled with adventure. So that was me growing up. Very little supervision. It's weird that I'm alive still.
We did some pretty crazy things when you're young, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was very much the same. Like I'll tell you a quick story. So when I was, I think around 5 or 6, I could ride a bike, and
Mm.
I lived in a pretty, housing commission sort of neighborhood. And we were always told by our parents never to go up the street because up the street lived a, a kidnapper, pretty much.
Oh wow.
He was
Right.
convicted of kidnapping kids.
Hmm.
So we were told never to go up there, stranger danger. So I was curious, I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So I get on my bike one day, go up the street, knock on the house, and out comes this lady, and she's like, "Hello, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I just wanted to see if there's a kidnapper here." And she looks at me like, "Get lost, kid." And I went back home and told my mum, and I got in the biggest trouble, man. Like, it's an absolute miracle that I still survived.
Wow. You're curious and courageous at your age.
I was, man. Like, nothing seemed to really faze me. They used to call me the kid with no fear. In many ways, that was dangerous. And then as I got older, I got a lot of fears. And it's funny how that seems to work, because when you become older, I've always been curious about that. Like, why do you think when we get older, we start having all these fears come into our life?
Well, I think life happens. I think we realize that there is danger. I think we get our hearts broken. Like, all of this happens. And unfortunately, we become very afraid. And I think when we become afraid, we create our own prison. I'm a big believer in connecting back to self. I talk a lot about how I think self-betterment is more about a reunion than anything else. And so at 35, after my rebirth, I was like, how do I connect back to the spirit of the 12-year-old, that was breakdancing and fearless and curious and all of that. And so it doesn't mean that as an adult you do stupid things, but tapping into the spirit of that person and actually being more fearless, I think that connects you, And so for me, that was my whole path. Is like, and it doesn't mean like to go start swimming with sharks or, jumping out of planes. I mean, unless that's your thing. For me, it was like, what is going to connect me to the spirit of John Kim when he was the happiest, felt the most alive. And that was the 80s. That was around 12, 13. When I was like you, going into random, asking random people if they kidnap boys or whatever. But just the world was big and I was curious, and every day was an adventure. And I felt like I lost that. So today, of course, we have taxes and bills and responsibilities. But I think tapping into the spirit of that person is going to create a new life, create a new path for you.
What's that saying? I think it is, we forget like how to play or something. We forget how to play.
Yeah, I think we forget play. We get obsessed with the corner office. We get obsessed with the paychecks, the scoreboard, the money, all of that status. And we forget to play, because we think play might be a waste of time. But I think it's part of life, and a meaningful life is to insert play into your life.
Mm-hmm. So, John, I want to sort of tap in a little bit more about this breakdown, this period of time that you were sort of trying to figure out who you were, and what ended up happening to get you to a place where, okay, I need to change. What was like? Okay, so you've been through the divorce. Now you're on this sort of journey.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get from, okay, I need to change, to, okay, I'm going to be a therapist? And what brought that on, do you think?
Yeah. So even being a therapist, I wanted to, kind of how we started this episode, wear the wrinkle-free pants and tuck my shirt in, and drive the BMW with a latte. I wanted to be like that kind of therapist, have a private practice, and the universe quickly threw me into nonprofit, and there was a lot of resistance. Man, I was embarrassed. Just got a degree. I just dropped $60K on a master's, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't want to work in nonprofit. And not only that, but I was working with teenagers. And I started to feel like a camp counselor in residential, because they were addicts. You take them grocery shopping, you just hang out with them, and kind of like a big brother. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I thought I was too good for it. I thought I was on my way to becoming a professional. But that's where I did my best work, was running groups with these kids. I realized we live in a fatherless nation. So dad's either not home physically or emotionally. And that was the birth of, the book. I used to be a miserable fuck. It was the fire in my belly, where I realized, I actually want to start writing about men and new definitions of men. And at the same time in my own life, I was going through that as well. Redefining what love looks like, looking inward, why I was so reactive, why I was so angry, so unhappy. And then it just set me off on this journey. And I feel like there in the nonprofit, I was the one in treatment. even though the kids were technically, I feel like I was there about 5 years. And I came out the other end really with the new lenses. I started putting weight on different things in life.
So 2 questions from that. Now that you've done all this research and you've seen kids without fathers, what do you believe it means to be a real man? And then going from that or bouncing from that, I have a question about what is true love?
Oh, geez, man, these are big questions. Two of the biggest questions in life. A real man. Well, in my book, I've had 66 tips. They're like do's and don'ts. But for me, I think it starts with being honest with yourself, right? Because you can't build anything without truth. And so whether that means, looking at your addictions or how you're wired, you have to look inward. I think that's where it starts. That's the soil. And then to really show up in an authentic way. And I don't think that's a light switch. I think it's something that you have to practice, because some days it's easy, some days it's hard. And of course, a lot of things like responding instead of reacting, try to understand before trying to be understood. Don't pee in the shower. That's one of them. And so, that's not really about peeing in the shower, but things like that, to take ownership, look inward, all of that stuff. And then love. What was the question? What's my definition of love?
What is real love?
Oh man. I think it depends on the individual. I mean, the word real can be tricky.
Why is it tricky?
Because we've been tricked by commercials and advertising and Disney movies, and we think that love means you lock eyes with someone across the room, and when you know, and that's dopamine. That also may be dysfunction happening underneath. That isn't love. I think love is built. I think love is when you swim past the breakers and look at your triggers and attachment style and love languages. I think love is communication. I think love is choosing to love someone when you don't like them some days, I think love is, it's not just a natural process that comes easy. I think love is a choice. I think it was Susan Piver that said this, but there's a difference between falling in love and having a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think people mistake that if you fall in love, like the more you're attracted to someone, the more easier the relationship's going to be. And that's not true. They're very different.
Do you believe that you can fall in love within a week, 2 weeks? Is there like a time limit?
Sure. I think you could feel, absolutely, because there's so many layers with chemistry, someone's energy. If you want to get really, maybe past lives, like all of these different types of connections. But you could fall in love fast if you allow yourself to. But that's very different than building a relationship, which takes a lot of work and time. Like, I don't think you could build a relationship in a week, but I think you could fall in love in a week.
Is it dangerous?
Feel the love. What's that?
Is it dangerous though to fall in love quick?
Well, I don't want to say as a general rule, because I know there are people who fell in love very fast and they're doing very well. But from most of the people that I've worked with, when you fall in love really fast, really hard, that's actually a red flag. That's actually, I think, wiring and dysfunction and codependency and enmeshment and a lot of stuff happening underneath, which we mistake as attraction. But, because maybe we're used to a certain type of person, type of energy that is not healthy. Maybe we're trying to fill holes, right? If you take the classic addict and Al-Anon example, that's like magnetic. That's like you meet eyes across the room and it's instant, but also that's not healthy.
I'm fascinated by this. So how can we distinguish between what's healthy and what's not healthy? Is it
time? So over time, you start to see, someone's not consistent. You start to see maybe dishonesty. You start to see little cracks, and you realize, oh wait, now the movie trailer is gone. Now the documentary is playing, right? You start to see the dirty socks on the floor. You start to realize there's a whole person here with her own story or his own story. And there's going to be triggers and resistance, and you guys are going to have to work through them, if you choose to love each other.
I've always looked at love from many different points of view. Ultimately, you got agape love, you got unconditional love. One of the best teachers with unconditional love for me was my old dog, and even now my dog at the moment.
Right.
So that's all the time they choose, no matter what you do to them, they choose just show love all the time. And it's unbelievable. So why is it that an animal can teach us that, and yet we as humans, we struggle with this always loving no matter what? It's because it's hard. It's
painful. I don't know if I believe in unconditional love. I know that's kind of the holy grail. That's what everyone wants. But I think love should have conditions. If I choose to love someone and they assassinate my character or punch me in the face, that's a condition. I won't love you if you do that to me. So sometimes having certain conditions makes the love healthy, right? Having non-negotiables, consistency, communication, whatever it is that you want. If you just say that I love you without condition, no matter what, I feel like that's where codependency lives. I used to believe that if you fall down, I go down with you because we love each other or because we're married, and we're not two people, we're one. And there's something romantic about that. There's something that makes me feel, tingly inside, and it's like us against the world. I get it. But that's not healthy. It's basically when you go down, I'll give you my hand, but not my life. That's healthy. And you were just saying this before, you're in a relationship and it's great, but you're your own person now. Yeah. Your life doesn't hang on the relationship. And when you have two people that come into a relationship like that, I think that's what makes a really healthy, sustainable relationship. But sometimes when you have two people coming in like that, it's not like the crazy fireworks because it's healthy, right? The dysfunction is not there. And usually the dysfunction is what makes it so sticky and juicy and feel like you're in high school again.
I learned this, and I'm curious to know what you think of it, that, okay, we're two people. We've all got our own flaws and our own things to learn. We're building ourselves. Now we are in a relationship, so we're meeting somewhere in the middle and we're building that together. But then when, God forbid, that breaks, at least we now have what we were building on before we were building on this. So then even on the side as well, without the relationship aspect, we can then sort of build on our own self. So then that can also help translate to the relationship a little bit more. So it's bit by bit, building blocks, I think.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's time. It's day in, day out, the investment that you give, communication, trust, which leads to my next question, which is basically, how can we build trust with a person or in a business setting, relationships, the whole bit?
On the surface, communication, consistency, all of that. I think we build trust by showing what I call your solid self, your authentic self. If you have two people showing parts of themselves but not the whole selves, there's a lot of false advertising. And I don't think trust can be built. I think trust is built with vulnerability, with two people doing life with each other, not around each other or at each other. This is who I am. This is where I'm at. I choose to love you. You choose to love me. And here are all my flaws, my defects. This is me here standing in front of you naked. To me, that's where trust, I think, starts.
So if you weren't to be, say, naked with a person, see the full self, you can't really trust them, can you?
Well, then the reason why I don't think so is because what are you seeing? Projection? What are you see? What parts of, what I'm saying? And also, showing your full self isn't just a one-time thing. It's not like over the weekend I showed you my full self. Now I don't have to show you that again. No, it's it's a lifestyle. I try to show you my full self as I am today with how I'm feeling and where I'm at today. This is my truth,
Exactly. That's sort of was where I was going. Which you're now a therapist, so you've been dealing with couples. I can imagine you've been dealing with a lot of different people. We've all got problems. We've all got insecurities and doubts and all that sort of stuff. Has there been one question that you've been asked, or one couple that has come to you that you haven't been able to help them?
Oh man, I don't really make it my responsibility on how much I've helped someone or I haven't, because as a coach and as a therapist, you can start to beat yourself up, right? And also, it's like it's like an actor who's aware of the lines instead of just being present in the character. And so, when I'm doing sessions, I just try to be present instead of analyzing myself for my performance or how much I'm helping someone. So I never leave it up to me what the collision's like and what someone gets from the sessions, you know? So I don't really know if there's been sessions where I haven't helped someone or I have, do you know? I mean, that being said, generally speaking, if they're still together, they're doing well, then I know I've helped them to a certain extent. But I never really know how much.
And sometimes that's okay.
It has to be, because I think if not, then you could be really hard on yourself and think you're not good or you're not helping people. I think it was Johnny Depp. He says he never watches his own movies. And I think it's for this reason, you know, he doesn't want to, because I'm sure if he watches his own movies, he's going to say, well, I could have done this. I could have done that. Oh, why didn't I hit that? And I do that in sessions as well. And so I got to stay away from that. You end up getting in the way of yourself.
Exactly. And I think like with that Johnny Depp saying, I've had people, you know, say to me, hey, Jay, why don't you listen to your own podcast? You listen back to them, you see what you did wrong. I said, I don't need to. I said, because if I was to do that, I get down and out on the fact that I said the wrong thing. Why don't I just do something completely different? Why don't I go to people that actually know more and they've actually increased in their ability and their knowledge? I listen to them. Mm-hmm. Then I can take away all the good bits and then reaffirm my life, you know, and improve what I already know. Like I think that most of the time, you know, learning comes from experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Experience is the best teacher.
And also it just allows you to be more present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's where I think the potency lives, is in the presence. And podcasting is an art like anything else. And if you were to evaluate yourself, it could get very technical. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%, man. This is a question that I've only asked a few people, but what is the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh man, I would say, this sounds generic, but to man up. Man up. Because I don't know what that means. I think that contributes to our toxic masculinity. Because you know, in our world, man up means to not show emotion, to you know, disconnect with self, to, you know, stick your chest out, to not cry, and I think all of those are damaging definitions of man. Right? I think it's kind of what's wrong with the world today, especially with this whole idea of fatherless nation. Even from, you know, our political landscape down, all the men, if you were to say man up, to me means to posture, to not be your authentic self. So yeah, that would be poor advice.
I was going to touch on the toxic masculinity before, but you sort of retouched on it again, which sparked my question, which is, how can we remove toxic masculinity in our society? Is it actually possible?
I think it starts with self. You know, I don't think the way to do it is to point fingers. And I think it starts at home. You know, most of the kids that I've treated and coached, they either wanted to fight me or be me. And it was because they didn't have a positive male role model growing up, you know? And I think that if we did, it would change so much, you know?
It's a topic that I'm very passionate about spreading awareness on. And same with mental health, like, because I've been through it. I know what it's like to want to end everything.
Sure.
It's really tough, but I think in society we do need real men to stand up and lead. and take the reins.
And I don't even know if the word's real. I think we need honest men. I think we need vulnerable men. I think we need men who are willing to show themselves, be examples, and I think we need men to support other men,
Mm.
Because with men, we're usually very competitive with each other, not supportive, not embracing, not encouraging. And I think that's a huge piece.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Like, I really enjoyed this conversation, John. I've got a couple more questions for you because I know
Sure.
it's very valuable. But this one's more of a fun one. What is the weirdest food combination you've ever tried?
Oh man, the weirdest food combination. God, you know what? I love food, and I think because today we're so open to all different cultures, sometimes the weirder the combination, the better. I grew up in the '80s where things like kimchi and Korean food was disgusting, and people made fun of me. But now they sell it at Trader Joe's. Now it's like become cool. If you go to Korean barbecue now in K-Town, you see more Caucasians than Koreans. So the food that I used to eat growing up was very stinky and gross, but now they mix that up with like fusion and, you put a taco in the mix and stuff. So I think mixing it up is actually what makes food interesting and good.
Mm. I
Yeah.
love Korean barbecue.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can live on that.
Yes. What are 3 things at the moment that you can say you are most grateful for in your life?
Oh, wow. Grateful for. One, the internet. If I ever talk shit about the internet, you or anyone listening to this has the right to come punch me in the face. The internet, starting with a blog 10 years ago called Angry Therapist, has given me a voice, has given me income, has given me freedom. Like, it's just given me everything, right? My daughter, 7 months old, at 47 having a kid. I didn't see that was going to happen, and it did. So I'm super grateful for that. And then the third thing I would say, I just moved to Altadena, which is the hills, and there was a bear digging through my trash can the other day, and I was like, "Holy, this is real!" And in the morning, there's parrots flying around. I feel like I live in Jurassic Park, but I'm grateful for that because I'm a city boy and I never left the city. And now here there's no city lights. And so I'm far from things, but I'm also very grateful to be far from things.
Mm. How did you meet your now, I'm assuming your girlfriend, and you've got a daughter?
Yeah.
So being a father, you got to share with me what it's like being a father. So first,
Oh man,
how did you meet your girlfriend?
We met on a blind date, which is interesting because I know right now everyone's meeting on dating apps. We met at a blind date. A friend said, "Hey," a friend I was working out with said, "Hey, do you date white girls?" And I was like, "Dude, I've been dating white girls since 1984. You were just an idea when I was dating white girls." So I said, it's right. And then he was like, "Oh, well, I got this friend for you, and she's also a therapist." And I was like, "Well, I don't just date therapists." So I met with her and I wasn't actually interested in a relationship because I was single on purpose at the time. I wanted to be single. I wanted to do all the things that single people do or did that I didn't have a chance to. Like, I've never had a one night stand. I've never had crazy experiences. I've always been in a long relationship. And so I wanted to kind of go crazy. And then of course it didn't happen. I started to a little bit, but it didn't happen. And cause I met her and she was interesting and smart and emotionally intelligent and beautiful and all that. So, off to the races. And now, we're going on almost 3 years.
3 years. Do you
Yeah.
think that you'll ever get married again?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't really think a lot about it. I don't think it's not as important to me as it was, when you're young, I think especially for women because of society, the beautiful wedding and the honeymoon and the ring, like all that means something. And I get it, but to me, I've already done that. If I was to get married again, it would be very low key. It would be, 20 people, on the beach or something like that. It wouldn't be at some fancy hotel with, 200 people and all that.
Mm. And being a father, what has that taught you about life?
Oh man, it's how hard it is. Lack of sleep. It's taught me that what's important, and You got to put your phone down. You got to be present. I struggle with that. I'm always on my phone because I live there, right on the internet. And it's taught me to look into someone's eyes again, to be there. So I'm working on it.
Be very present. The eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah. We forget.
I love doing that. My girlfriend hates it because I'm constantly looking at her eyes, and she's like, "Stop looking at me." I'm like, I like it. It's
yeah. It's uncomfortable for her, huh?
Yeah, you just gotta. I'm very present. I'm very focused. Sometimes people, they're not used to it, so they sort of like get a little bit weirded out by it.
Yeah.
I guess. But my last question for you, John, before we move towards promoting your work, this is my legacy question. So one of my all-time favorite questions. So you've been able to reach the age of 100, and your friends have put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how they got it all. We'll just call it magic. But they've been able to show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Trust your story. Oh, your podcast has the word story in it, and I love that. I think your story is the most valuable thing that you will ever own. I think most people rip out chapters and they're embarrassed of things that have happened. But I think if you get to a place where you not only embrace your story, but start to share your story becomes bigger than you. And I think trusting your story is something that's greater than you, also, no one has your story. So your value, your uniqueness isn't just about what you can do. It's about your story, how you lived,
It's a powerful legacy to leave behind, man. Yeah. Especially the story aspect. I love it. Yeah. Where can people find you, John? Where can people connect with you and learn more about you and support you?
You guys could find me on Craigslist, Casual Encounters. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on at The Angry Therapist. I'm pretty active on Instagram. And then, just at The Angry Therapist, wherever, Instagram, Facebook.
I'll make sure that's all in the show notes below. Your books as well, people can buy them online?
Yep, you can buy them online. I have a brand new one coming out in January called Single on Purpose. And it's all about, it's not an anti-relationship book. It's a pro-relationship with self. It's the idea of connecting to yourself while you're connecting to someone else. Just because we live in such a toxic swipe culture, these days. Yeah. And so I'm super excited about that.
Tinder. Nah, I've never had it. Wanted.
Yeah.
I like that title, man. It seems very powerful. I can't wait to read it. So
thank you.
Kim, thank you so much for coming on the Storybox podcast and sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.